On Thursday, a new series.
Welcome back to Victoria Park, a beautiful bird's eye view from the top of the Park Lane Hotel. We've had the two main races of the afternoon. We've got two more to go, a 135cc team race and a 100cc team race. The crowd's enjoying this. The great thing about kart racing, of course, is that the action takes place before your very eyes, and it's very easy rather, to put the spectators in a position where they can see virtually the whole track. I'm taking my lesson from the first race, and I'll not be trying to interview the winner. I think Alessandro Zanardi's English is a little poorer than Giuseppe Bugatti's from the first race, so I'm going to stay in the commentary position. We're going to watch them receive their trophies and check. Perhaps I could bring Simon in here. A little bit of a disappointment, I suppose, with Modena. Now, he's been the fastest on the track for so often. We've seen him in previous years. He wasn't here last year, but the year before that and the year before that. Normally, he was the author of his own downfall. I mean, he used to be the one exciting driver, would ride himself off, come through the field, and finally die in a distant corner somewhere. This year, he seemed to be much smoother, much calmer. I think it was his engine this time.
It certainly looked, Brian, like some sort of mechanical failure for Stefano Modena, because his kart was parked by the side of the road looking quite undamaged externally. I don't think he hit anything, but perhaps we can say that pole positions don't suit Stefano Modena. As you say, we've often seen him come storming through from a lowly position and give us plenty of excitement, but he just rushed away at the start. He was obviously in a class of his own, and I think had he not had that mechanical failure, then the race would have been absolutely in his pocket. But several things did impress me about that race. It was splendid to see Kazushi Sano shake off the pursuit and storm up to catch Alessandro Zanardi in the closing stages, and then Zanardi managed to pull out just a little bit more from somewhere and increase his speed a little bit. And very quickly, a word for Hideki Noda, the Japanese who started 15th and came all the way through the field to finish 7th. So he doesn't get any glory for finishing 7th, but that was a tremendous performance. He managed to get up to finish just ahead of Mike Hesemans, who started 6th, but perhaps a little weary from his efforts in the 135, dropped to finish 8th at the end.
Well, the drivers have just finished their chauffeur-driven victory lap in the Terry Barraclough Rolls-Royce and mount the podium there. And another very happy Italian team member, Alessandro Zanardi. Second was the Japanese driver, Kazushi Sano, and Thomas Christiansen, the Dane. Miss Hong Kong, second runner-up, Miss Helen Wong, gives a congratulatory kiss, and to Victor the laurels, albeit plastic, but they brought out every year. I'm sure the check is important as much as anything else, but a proud moment for these drivers. They've been here for 4 days, racing. Most of them arrived on Monday, so it's a whole week of preparation, so it's nice to go away with something. Well, the traditional spraying of the crowd, the photographers, from the winner Alessandro Zanardi. There are 2 more races in this afternoon's programme. We have a team race for the 135cc machines. We have a team race for the 100cc machines. We'll be back with full details of those. I should tell you that the next team race, the Café de Corral 135 race, is due on at about 3:30. So let's go back to some more archive material. Now, those of you who watch Tuesday Sport regularly will know that we've been covering some powerboat Grand Prix, and this is one of them. Appropriate enough, it's the Italian Grand Prix. We've had a bit of an emphasis on the Italian driving skills this afternoon, and we're going to see some more in action coming up now. This was the Italian Formula 1 Grand Prix held in Milan, and we shall be looking now at the first two heats. The segment coming up now.
Well, hello, and welcome to round 7 of the 1984.
Welcome back to Victoria Park. 2 races to go, both team races, and a little bit of a delay here because I think the organisers are having trouble finding enough well machines to complete the next event, which is the team race for 135cc machines. Very fragile pieces of equipment, of course, these engines, and as we know from one, certainly Douglas Spencer, the British driver who kindly took us through the ins and outs of his machine at the beginning of the programme. We know that he's got through all his engines so far, and there'll be some doubt as to whether it will be a truly international team race, i.e. an Italian will drive with an Italian and a Dutchman with a Dutchman and so on. I think what they might do is just put together some scratch pairs, and so we all get a race. You're looking there at the dummy grid. The cars have to go through scrutineering in the main pits area, and then they're brought out onto that dummy grid to line up in the assigned order. Then when the marshal is satisfied that everything's in order, they take their positions on the main straight. You can see there just before that white starter's marker. Now the pits area, always an interesting scene for the informed and the not so well informed. Now unfortunately we can't get our mobile cameras in there on race day because we're all governed by the length of cable that we have attached to them. But yesterday I was able to go in with an EFP camera, a mobile camera, and just take a little bit of take in a little bit of the atmosphere that is there waiting for the observer. This is the segment.
It's about 10 minutes to the start.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3. There is a part that is known for the face it attracts. Life won't be so bad if lazy fall. Girl on the seesaw is nothing for love is the call of this racing horse. Lazy fall. Vision is easy to say. You can leave that come to this place in your heart. Lazy fall is in your even the cries of the city condemns where we live. Memories die, taxes you still have to give. Whoever said that love was stronger than you?
Well, Prince and the Revolution. It's Victoria Park, not Paisley Park, but never mind, I'm sure you don't mind. There are the riders out on the dummy grid waiting to be drawn out onto the main start finish. And as I said, we're still trying to get information through from the race marshals on exactly which teams are going to be lining up. The Café de Coral team race will go ahead. We're not quite sure exactly which teams. I think, Simon, you might have some information.
Well, yes, we have got a quick handwritten grid which has come up from the organisers, and as far as we know, there will be an Italian team, a Dutch team, a joint New Zealand-Great Britain team, 2 carts in each team, incidentally. Then there are 2 Hong Kong teams, so there are 4 Hong Kong drivers going to be in the race, and there are 3 Japanese teams, 6 Japanese drivers. So the grid as we have it so far, with 16 runners, has the positions apparently based on the performance, or partly on the performance, in the 135cc Grand Prix. We say partly because although Bugatti is on pole position, it's Yamanaka of Japan who's alongside him, with De Bruyn of Holland and Raymond Chan of the Hong Kong team alongside. So I think nobody's meant to take this race quite as seriously as the 2 races that have gone before, the Grand Prix itself and the 100cc final. But nevertheless, when you're a kart driver and you get out there, every race, I think, is pretty serious.
We'll have a good race here. The concept of a team race is a little bit different.
Still a few minutes to wait. We're getting an announcement over the tannoy, which I can hear. You probably might even be able to pick up through the microphone that we're going to be, I should think, another 5 minutes or so before we're actually out on the grid.
Who isn't fastest?
With shots from our Park Lane Hotel rooftop camera, picking up the action as Hennessy Road meets Kings Road. And we pan across through the Sunday afternoon festivities in Victoria Park. It's, of course, a traditional circuit for the racetrack here. Victoria Park circuit, always set out in amongst the cones. And indeed, the very first kart Grand Prix ever held was in the car park of a supermarket in the States. It's gone on to slightly more illustrious environments since then, but basically it's a race for the urban environment.
Yes, karting, of course, very much an American invention, as Brian was saying. It did start, and with those humble origins right back in the towards the end of the 1950s. It's now become a totally international, a very sophisticated sport. It is, of course, now the breeding ground of drivers who go on to the multi-million-dollar heights of Grand Prix racing. So plenty more action still to come here. We've got the the 135cc team race shortly to come, with 16 runners and 20 laps, and we'll be back with that shortly.
Thursday in Studio 930.
Welcome back to Victoria Park. I'm going to pick you up something on, you said just as we went to that commercial break, Simon, you said karting is always a breeding ground for Formula One drivers, and we've had quite a few that have come through. We were watching in Macau last week René Arnoux, who was one. Alain Prost, I gather, was another.
Yes, and of course your guest in the studio last Tuesday, Mauricio Gugelmin. Both Gugelmin and Ayrton Senna were Brazilian kart champions in different classes. They were developing alongside one another. And what we're seeing here in Hong Kong is what I always regard as being the classic type of kart racing, because it's tiny machines with direct drive, with no clutch, with no gearbox. It is literally an engine, a chain, a sprocket, 4 wheels and a disc brake. That's making it sound very unsophisticated. In fact, these karts are beautifully built and very sophisticated indeed, and have astonishing road holding when you bear in mind that they have no suspension of any sort. There are, of course, other types of kart racing. There's in Europe, and particularly in England, we now see the frighteningly fast 250cc karts, which use racing motorcycle engines and gearboxes, and they're now so quick that they race on the open circuits used by Grand Prix cars. So we have the sight of karts howling round the high-speed circuits like Silverstone, with the drivers almost completely lying down behind little bits of fiberglass bodywork, and they are very fast and quite astonishing to watch, and even more frightening to sit on, which I've occasionally been allowed to, but never really in anger, just to make myself feel what it feels like. And I can tell you, when your backside is 1 3/4 inches off the tarmac, you get the most tremendous impression of speed. What karting, I think, really teaches people who do want to go on to other forms of motor racing is it teaches tremendous car control, because you can get into trouble in a kart, not perhaps to hurt yourself, but you can waste time by travelling sideways, and you learn very quickly on a kart that tidy driving, to be able to drive fast but tidily, is the way to win races. It also, of course, teaches you how to behave in close traffic, and you will have seen from all our pictures today just how closely these karts are able to run together. They're able to go wheel to wheel, 2 and 3 abreast into corners, and occasionally they do touch, occasionally they take each other off, but most of the time the top kart drivers, and that's the class of driver you're seeing here in Hong Kong today, they're able to drive in tremendously close proximity, absolutely on the limit, all go into a corner, 3 and 4 abreast, and you think there's no way they're going to come out, and sure enough, they all manage to come out again in one piece.
Indeed, Simon. We've seen on Tuesday Sports on occasions the supercars racing, which is held on proper racing circuits, 250cc machines, and they get up to speeds of 140 miles an hour, and they are, of course, full aerodynamic bodywork. They have clutch and gearbox. These machines that we've been watching this afternoon